like I've taken a wrong left turn somewhere in that dungeon. Well, that's not good. How is it? Greetings, elders. It occurred to me that I have marked in myself in my about as being one who plays horror games. And to my credit, I do play horror games, but I have yet to stream scary games. This first game is probably not very scary, but it is weird. And when I say weird, I don't mean cringe or anything like that in honor term. No, I mean weird in a 1920s pulp magazine kind of weird. Lovecraftian, even. Horror. High Rook. A card game of sorts. High Rook Estate. An aristocratic eyrie of cold rock and rain. A melancholy shadow overlooking the port at Black Sands. At the summit of its grey cliffs lies the crumbling edifice of Acheron. The Acheron family. Once respected by the city elite, the Acheron family fell from grace to become the subject of snide remarks and scornful whispers. Lord Acheron was a prominent book collector, whose increasing interest in the occult saw him driven from respected academic practice. It is rumored he turned to the Seekers Communion for support, shortly before his family's enigmatic disappearance. The Seekers Communion. The Seekers Communion is a secretive organization of mystics, seers, and exiled scholars. This clandestine group supports occult practices across the city and facilitates a black market for arcane goods. Officially banned by Black Sands Council, the collective continues its work in the shadows. It's not good. Mayor Alliston. Council investigation. The vanishing of a noble house, however disfavored, cannot go unexamined by the council. The Black Sands Mayor, Lord Alliston, has commissioned a cross-guild team to investigate. A dilapidated stagecoach deposits the party at High Rook. The rain echoes eerily the empty halls. I'm assuming an investigation squad will be controlled by me, the player. Game loaded. Chapter 1. We hide in the shadows of the world beyond. Adage of the Deep Spire Church. Okay. Welcome to the Horror at High Rook, a card-crafting cosmic horror board game. You control a team of investigators sent to examine the disappearance of a noble family from their ancestral home. Progress through the game, you must combine characters and items in order to complete tasks across the ancient estate. Experiment and explore. There are many mysteries to unravel. If you reach a dead end, turn your attention elsewhere for a while and try something else. A small set of introductory tasks listed to the bottom left to help you get started. You can close this window now and work things out as you play, or you can read the other sections in the sky to learn more about the game systems. The information is always accessible in the in-game menu. Escape. Okay, game board. Select its title bar to get information. Zoom in and out. All rooms have attributes. Lips, key, coffee, chalice. Device attribute, study card, and machine room. And you can use the code in that location. Okay, so match the attributes. Character, task focus, task support, info. You need a character and a task focus to perform task. Supports help you complete those tasks. Information, story fragments, and hints. Flowing board means you have to read it. Perform task and matching rooms. Characters. Keep your team alive and well. Each character has a set of skills to help them task and 4 vital statistics that define their health and state of mind. Injury. This represents how hurt a character is. If it reaches 100%, the character will be incapacitated and unable to perform any tasks except to recover their health. Fatigue makes them tired. Hunger. Madness. Characters, timers. The sundial at the top right of the screen, okay. Turning game time, number of days you've been in the manor. Use the buttons. Control the speed of the game. Pause or unpause. Okay, I think we're ready. Pause and unpause. Open the supply crate. Council missive. So we have our characters. Atticus Hawk. I'm going to move myself a little out of your... Oops. There we go. There. You can see a little bit better. Atticus Hawk. Calcitrant bundle of sinew and muscle. Hawk's blunt manners as intimidating as his stature. An orphan of the Allward docks. He works for others only when the arrangement suits him. So we got the muscle, Scholar Vitali, an occultist of high standing. Titus Vitali is a shuffling encyclopedia of arcane lore. His knowledge of forgotten tongues and ancient tomes makes him a formidable yet rambling consultant. We have our brains. Mechanist Astor, a professor of mechanics at Venatus College. Jane Astor has established her reputation through the construction of experimental semi-autonomous devices. She is obsessed with the workings of things, treating the world as an elaborate clock to be dismantled and rebuilt. We have our tinkerer. The council missive. Dear investigators, by order of the High Council, you are granted license to commandeer Hyrule Manor and its associated facilities. You've been commissioned to investigate the disappearance of the Akron family, the owners of the estate, who were reported missing several days ago. The Akrons are well known in the city, and their vanishing is concerning, especially considering a rumored affiliation with the Seekers Communion. Please treat any evidence you might find as confidential and report immediately to the Council when your task is complete. A news report is included to provide further context on this unusual event. Lord Mayor Alliston. News report. Scholar Vitali. You see, Mayor Alliston is as conceited as always. His presumption that all city events require his involvement is so tiresome. I suspect that Bleakhurst has been involved more for political point scoring than out of respect for our knowledge. But perhaps I can track down the books that Akron borrowed from us last year. Vitali sighs and rolls his eyes. And Astor. Indeed, Vitali. I am equally tired of Alliston's petty machinations, but the High Council provides us with the bulk of our funding, and as such we are obliged to respond. At least they have provided us with some of tools to begin our work. We should take this supply crate to the machine room, where I can extract its contents. Atticus Hawk. I don't much like Alliston either, but he pays well. And I certainly don't trust bookworms like this Akron chap. None but trouble in all those old tomes. Atticus shuffles impatiently. Let's find these upmarket fools and get out of here. Spoken like a true Aldworther. Vitali shakes his head dismissively. Don't worry, my friend. You'll be away from the bookworms and back with the woodworms soon. Fewer insults, more action. Our remaining colleague, a doctor from King Cross, will be joining us tomorrow. We should prepare for her arrival. Astor draws a mechanist key driver from her belt and approaches the crate. We also got this newspaper clipping. Vanishing at High Rook. The Acheron family, one of the city's most eligible houses, has disappeared under suspicious circumstances this week. A delivery boy from Dioridge Market is reported to have discovered the family's absence when he arrived at their clifftop manor to deliver tinned fish. The boy, who has subsequently been treated for delirium, is reported to have spoken about seeing the place as if struck by a storm. The Acheron family were not immediately found by a local tollsman, and their servants, a maid, and an estate warden, also seem to have been missing for some time. The High Council announced that it has commissioned a cross-guild team to investigate this disturbing occurrence of vanishment. That is one for the records, for sure. The supply crate. A burnished metal crate of investigative equipment provided by the High Council. It is sealed with an elaborate mechanist lock. We need to take this to the machine room in order to open it. Okay, so we're going to take this box. Where is the machine room? Here it is. In the west wing. We're going to take mechanist Astor. Move the supply crate into the task slots. Okay, so that's the gear. And from here, the character goes into the character slot. Right here. Click on the room or its title bar, and then select Start Task in the inspector panel to the right. The acrid smell of engine oil permeates the space, propagated by hidden fans and snaking ducts. Mechanical computers hum softly, anchored with cables like metal roots, their punch card ports eager for data. Let's start the task. This can go to the records. While she completes her task, we shall wait patiently with Atticus and Scholar Vitali. We also have access to the guest rooms, dining room, kitchen, archives, and the cliff top, complete in a timely fashion. Equipment notes. The following items have been packaged and assigned to your team. Please use them as instructed. Spyglass, a high-quality binocular set from the workshops of Ashburg, intended for use in hunts or expeditions. A night lamp. A soporific nightlight from the mechanist workshops of Venatus. Its gentle hum and soft light promotes slumber, even in disturbing surrounds. Library codex. Provided by the scholars of Bleakhurst, a catalog of archive filing systems and literature. Good luck in your investigations, Quartermaster Levin. One second. Okay, sorry about that. So let's send this to records. The spyglass. A pair of ornate binoculars composed of burnished brass fittings and oil-smudged leather. The lenses stain the world a watery blue, but their magnification and focus are impressive. We can perform a task with this card in the cliff top. Okay, foraging in the cliff top is one of the things we need to do, so spyglass. Atticus seems like a good outdoorsman. We'll get him. Forage while we look at the rest of this. The night lamp. A mechanist lantern from the Venatus workshop. Its clockwork heart produces a hypnotic hum when activated. The soporific sound, combined with the soft scattering of dappled light, is guaranteed to induce sleep. The act of sleeping reduces the fatigue of all characters present in the room. It may also provide us with... I don't know what that is. Talking? Lips? Or mechanic inspiration. We performed in the guest rooms. Codex. A well-thumbed index from Bleakhurst College describing the canonical organization of archives and texts. My favorite game, Abject Insanity and Hopelessness. Yeah, I think you'll get a kick out of this stream, Sarksic. Because it occurred to me that I have horror advertised, but I haven't actually streamed any horror, so I have a few games like this. Not necessarily card games on a tabletop, but I also have Repose, which is a sort of a dungeon crawler in that World of Horror 1-bit kind of style. And time permitting, another game called Children of Clay. It's a free-to-play game. It's supposed to only be like 20 minutes long. Reminds me of Clue. Yeah, it does. It does look like a lot like Clue. Okay, useful items in the organizational chaos of the archives. Okay, so let's get this in here and we'll get our scholar to investigate. Boxes of artifacts and trinkets weigh down the dust-laden shelves. Some locked and others spilling open. Between the creaking stacks, books and folders lie piled in moldering heaps like papery stalagmites. Memories to package the present into words and photographs to fossilize thoughts in psychic amber. A dungeon map for D&D, it does, yeah. Use one of those pre-printed maps. Yeah, those can be really good. And they also work too. You can pretty much do whatever you want. Even if it already has shit printed on it, you can always, you know, just draw over it. Draw over it or just say fuck it, use something else. Use a cutout to cover it. Our scholar will, about the forbidden knowledge, and Atticus will scour the cliff tops. Annis is a little tired, so let's get her to sleep in the guest room for a bit. To stop keep her fatigue. Ah. Vitali. Mr. Mouse. Mr. Mouse lived in a house. Not his house, but the house of a great king. Some people don't want mice in their homes, but the king was always asleep and dreaming, so Mr. Mouse was free to wander the house without fear. Most mornings, Mr. Mouse would climb up the curtains and look out the windows, gazing across the ash-colored land to the evil river beyond. He knew that the river was the place where visitors would arrive, their feet making pretty patterns in the ash-gray sand. He wanted to visit the river. He was afraid that he would get lost on the way. Instead of venturing outside, he would watch and whisper. What has Atticus found? Catalytic powder. A pinch of reactive powder scraped from the briny efflorescence of ancient Hyrix stone. Useful reagent in chemical processes. This catalyst can support our activities in the laboratory. We have a laboratory. Not yet. Okay, I'm gonna leave it in the courtyard then. No, I'll leave it in the guest rooms. Raw meat. A chunk of meat cut from a trapped hare. Its scrawny flesh might make a decent meal when cooked. Goes into the kitchen. Okay, which one of these guys is hungry? All of them, sorta. I think this will feed everyone. We're still awaiting our doctor's arrival. Gift of the monkey. A scampering shadow. A half-seen furry form darts around the machine room. Okay, and that goes in the machine room. Wheels clatter and shelves creak, but the invisible interloper is helping, not hindering. A hairy hand passes you the part you require, and a chattering giggle fades into the air around you. A lingering vision, a source of inspiration. Let's get everyone in the kitchen. We got Atticus to cook. That'll be our first meal for this introductory task. It's a basic meal. It's not tasty or fragrant or even very warm, but it is sustenance. We can only eat this together in the dining room. Reduce our hunger. Here. Get everyone to eat. What should be a convivial space is ruined by the presence of disturbing claw marks across the main dining table. We eat. Belch. Alright. Already done that. Sensations. Voluptuous decadence, where flesh separates from mind and sinks into its own rewards. Okay. They're not super tired. Hawk is getting a little tired, but I'm gonna make him search a little bit more. Vitaly can search. We have nothing to use in the machine room. Maybe we can find something else before we send Hawk to sleep. Moon grain. An ancient grain, its dry stalks supporting rough spiked ears. Cultivated and cropped with the pretense of making stodgy bread. Its less pure than uses for fermenting of a strong homebrewed liquor. That goes in the kitchen. Tracing charcoal, a nugget of crumbling coal. Its dark dust coats everything in a fine film, revealing the patterns of fingerprints and scars. We can use this to reveal the hidden marginalia and erase notes in journals and tomes. Okay, so if I find a book, a good book. Study code. A slip of creased card inscribed with neat lines of numbers and symbols. It appears to be a key code of some kind. On the reverse surface, the image of a key is stamped in blue ink. I can go to the machine room. And let's also use this charcoal. Maybe there's some secret on there. Keep searching. Complete in untimely fashion. Interesting. I guess you didn't really find anything. Oh no. Up here, the study has been opened. Okay, let's deal with Hawk first. Raven's cap. These ink-stained button mushrooms represent the darker side of foraging cuisine. But eaten raw, the rubbery flesh can prompt vivid hallucinations or stomach pain. Would-be Gnostics and cheap lotus eaters often resort to this plant as a free source of short-lived visions. We could eat a handful of these raw in the dining room if we're feeling lucky. Assuming these mushrooms law can provide machinist or alchemy inspiration, but can also make you ill. Magic mushrooms. Simon's note. Yesterday, Pa made me get some weird necklace from under the cave under the house. I don't think this boy can spell. Down there, the tunnels get all twisted. It was scary. I think maybe smugglers left it for him. Pa said not to put it on, but it was shining when I dug it up like a red star. I wanted to wear it really bad, but it hurt when I did, like nettles all over. I took it off quick. It's in the chapel now, and Pa goes there at night and makes strange sounds, like he's crying. I worry he's putting it on and it's hurting him. Like it hurt me. I hate it. I want to throw it away, but Pa says no. He is grumpy. He shouted at me the other day for doing drawing in his study. And I play outside now. I don't mind. Like watching the birds, but it feels extra cold today. Simon. Abused by his madman father. Gideon's notes. This is important. If whoever finds this note, do not follow my path. You will not find us. They have their threads in us, all of us. They pull and we cannot resist. If you seek us out, you too will be lost. If I can, and before it's too late, I will close the doors. I will shatter the gates and scatter the fragments, and I beseech you, do not follow. I have made such errors of judgment, such acts of vanity and greed, and for what? This does not bode well. The first evidence of Lord Akron we find, and it's a garbled, paranoid rant. Perhaps Gideon was trying to escape the communion's grasp, or perhaps his occult obsessions really had driven him insane. Astor looks disturbed. I ain't no detective, but perhaps the Lord was up to no good, and this is him trying to cover his tracks. Atticus' brows knit together with suspicion. He could be trying to set up someone to take the blame for whatever happened to his family. Or maybe he just went mad sitting up there with all his weird books. Do not be so quick to judge. Lord Akron was an accomplished academic. I don't think we can simply dismiss his writings as the babblings of a madman. I feel there is truth in his words, disturbing though they may be. It is too soon to say what this outburst really means. Send this to the records. Simple trowel. A crooked trowel, tarnished with age and spotted with rust. The scratched metal blade is dented, but the sharp edge is still strong enough to bite into the frosty soil of the courtyards. Digging up something. What is this? Fragment. A fragment of something more. The dark traceries and dislocated symbols offer only a glimpse of what the whole might be. A piece of something forbidden. Oh well. Let's get Atticus to dig a hole. Tracker's Guide. How to find the salt hair, the broken twig, signs of the storm, where the wild things may be. We have uncovered a selection of expeditionary notes that might serve to aid our exploration of the cliff tops. Okay, so that goes here. For Atticus. After he finishes digging, keep searching through books. Hawk is getting pretty tired. Greenleaf. A fragile rose with a crown of deep purple petals. Concoctions made from this delicate plant are rumored to instill vivid dreams and nighttime visions. The city's mystics often endorse its use as a catalyst for seances and fortune-telling. Laboratory. Don't have that unlocked yet. But that'll be helpful later, when our doctor arrives, Oilbud. Oilbud is a greasy, thick-stemmed plant. Its wiry branches lined with rows of waxy buds. Engineers and apothecaries frequently cultivate this plant, crushing its buds for natural lubricant they contain. Okay. Let's put Atticus back at the cliff top. Ah, our good doctor has arrived. Dr. Callaghan. Apologies for my late arrival. I had to visit a patient in Direwich yesterday. The fellow had developed Coxon's compliance, bones like rubber, most intriguing. Dr. Callagher's fingers lace and unlace. Coincidentally, my guild was summoned here recently to tend to the Akron's son. He was suffering from an unusual infection. Unfortunately, my colleagues were unable to diagnose the cause. Dr. Callagher, your late arrival is of no matter. We have barely unpacked our own equipment. The mansion is somewhat disturbed and various chambers are inaccessible, sealed with mechanist locks. I believe that one of these locations might house a simple laboratory that you can make use of when we gain access. I suspected as much. My colleagues sensed foul play when they visited here before. Lord Akron was adamant that our team should not investigate without his supervision. Luckily, a junior analyst had the foresight to retain the laboratory code. We should be able to gain access using the copy I have here. Very smart, Miss Callagher, but it don't surprise me. You're sharp as a blade when you fixed me up with my crew from Keel Fever last spring. Saved us from a right wrecking, you might say. Atticus seems almost coy. How are you one? If you need any alchemy supplies or help with shifting stuff, just let me know. We'll put Atticus. So we have the study. Mysteries. Faded folios and watermarked journals are scattered across the ancient ink-stained desk. Pale candlelight picks out the edges of gilded tomes, trembling in the draughty air. An old but functional telegraph rests in one corner. Okay, but we want access to the laboratory. A slip of creased card inscribed beneath ends of numbers and symbols. Okay, so this goes here. I see. So the slips unlock the rooms. I just need the mechanist to open them. Here we are. Booster matrix. Machine overload card traced with mathematical logic and yellowed with time. Need calculations improve performance. Give that to her. The lab is open. A small dingy clinic. Scarred desk crammed with analytical chemicals and broken scientific tools. Despite its decrepit condition, we could use this place for our alchemical needs. And it came with a note. Simon's note, too. I'm getting sick. Must have got a cold from the caves and the hurt from the necklace is still there. I'm writing this sitting in the medicine room. I'm waiting for Amy to make me a special sleepy drink. I really do not like being sick. Maybe the necklace has put a curse on me. I'd throw it off the cliff if I could. Odd did not seem to care. He's still singing his sad songs, doing his big chalk drawings. I can hear him in the chapel from my room sometimes. I hope he doesn't get sick too. Anyway, Amy says it's best not to talk to him about it at the moment. She says he's been all quiet and strange of late. He's not like his normal self. This note confirms what I already suspected. Simon's illness was some sort of otherworldly malady, contracted when his father involved the boy in his occult research. Dr. Caligar adjusts her mask and begins to pace around the room. No wonder my colleagues couldn't identify the cause of the problem. I only wish I'd been there to examine him. The description of the ailment and the pain is most intriguing. Poor mate. His father is nothing but a coward, letting his son to the undercoast because he daren't go there himself. Meddling in dark arts is stupid enough, but including kids in such danger is unforgivable. Yet he'd look down at us dogsfolk if he passes in the street. Ugh. Atticus, it is not our role to judge Lord Acheron's morals, simply to follow his trail. Vitali opens his arms in an appeal for calm. But we can agree that the son's illness was related to his father's work. We should try to find this necklace. I would like to know how it is involved in the Seeker's plans. Let's go to the records. So we have these alchemical use items which we'll put in the laboratory. We'll get Caligar to start her work. Caligar is actually almost asleep. And so is Hawk, so let's get them to do another. Why were not met? We need two. There we go. She can work with the oil buds. We'll get Tolly to keep looking in the library. And Hawk has almost done his task. Some more meat for the kitchen. Again, Hawk, keep looking. I'm gonna get maybe Aster to. Oh, Aster can't dig. Okay, she has to stay in here. Seeker's letter. Dear Gideon, your efforts have been noticed. You are new to the communion, yet we already sense great potential in your practice. As discussed, we will aid you in your work and provide such guidance as we can. In return, you must follow that guidance and pledge yourself to our order. As you are aware, High Rook rests above the Black Sands undercoast, a network of subterranean smuggling routes and hidden chambers. An old Seeker's sanctuary still lies within those caves. Descend and locate this shrine if you can. We believe objects of great power still remain there, hidden in that gloom. Union. What did she make? Machine oil. That will help our mechanist. And she can't work with this for some reason. We may need some otherworldly inspiration from this Raven's Cap. But we'll see. Cryptic journal. A small folio of notes and diagrams scribbled in Lord Acheron's distinctive hand. It has written a more complex cipher than previous entries. This can be used in the study. I wonder if our mechanist can use that. cannot. But maybe the scholar can. No, he cannot. Worth a try. Okay. Keep looking through these. Find anything, Hawk? Hawk needs to sleep. And so should Caligar. Once they awaken, we'll see about getting some food into them. Puzzling journal. This helps with the study. Okay, they're awake now. Not really hungry. Another journal. We can study these journals. Good. Okay. Aligar's awake. Turn her to her. Who's feeling hungry? No one really. Okay. An echo. The shadow of a child is here sometimes. His presence flickers like a candle. Here's the madness of nearby characters every— Oh, and I can't move it. Shit. Okay. Gideon's note. Dreamleaf potions are working. I took another one last night at bedtime, and in my slumber I saw it, a relic of Valhassa. A glowing shard of light, an ancient pendant buried in the deep chamber of the Undercoast, just as the Seekers said. I sent Simon down to find it. My old eyes are worse than his, and he loves to explore the caves. He is nimble, and the Ictus sleep even lower than the Seekers' caves. Ictus. But I knew he would be safe. Following the outline of my dream, he found the pendant, returning it proudly to me, his eyes bright with excitement. I hope one day to show him the wonders he helped bring forth. But for now, just a few more fragments and I can complete the first steps of my journey. Dreamleaf potions. I have Dreamleaf, but I have no way to make the potions. Okay. Another piece of that fragment. Whatever it is. Let's put it in the storage. Drawing something. Ah, so the fragments go in here. Whatever that makes. Okay. Vitali's gonna go insane and if he stays too long in here. He's getting tired, which doesn't help. No way to make this Dreamleaf though. Maybe some inspiration with the Raven's Cap. Place of Victuals task. What is a Victuals task? Oh, dining room. Okay, this goes in the dining room. Good. Gideon's note 2. I had the Valhassa tear and the fragments to accompany it, but at what cost? My son brought more than just the relic back from the depths. He's afflicted with some unearthly wasting disease. Doctors from Canecross could not help him, and he is now so frail that I fear he may not recover on his own. I hope to find some assistance for him via my work, or from the Seekers. Perhaps the cure lies somewhere within the walls of Nibiru. In the meantime, I'm sealing the chapel just as I've closed the laboratory. I don't want anyone else to stumble across my work and end up injured. Another piece. Making something. No way to read this journal. Vitali's about to pass out. An echo. Shit, okay. Go to digging. Atticus. It's about to pass out. Moonshine. Gift of the owl. An ash-gray owl perches on my shoulder. Its dish-plate eyes absorb the world. It sees between the furrows, between the lines, rooting out its prey with patience and perception. A vision that lingers, offering a source of inspiration for the study. We'll cook this meat as well. Healing sprig. Be nice. The dream leaf is about to rot away, so I suppose there's nothing I can do about it. I like the focus needed for it. Oh, a box. The alchemist can open it up. Or mechanist, rather. After she's finished cooking. Gift of the snake. Coiling around my limbs like a second skin. But I am not afraid. They hiss, they caress, whispering dark secrets to me. A vision from a dream, a source of inspiration. Okay, we don't have what we need for that, so let's store it. This goes in here. I realize now. Vitali is awake. Vitali can inscribe this journal. Once this is cooked. We'll need to eat soon. Aster's getting tired too, but we need her to open this box. Okay, the ghost is gone from the lift top. We can keep searching. Vitali's note. Atticus is a simple thug. The man clearly has no understanding or appreciation of anything that he can't immediately hold or see. He's an unsophisticated bear, something that I might even find appealing in other circumstances. But I must remain focused on our task and advocate for brains over brawn. I'm sure that Bleakhurst sent me here because of my interest in arcane texts. They may disapprove of my specialism publicly, but they benefit from it privately. Despite common belief, many of the occult theories promoted by the Seekers have authentic grounds. It'd be a great vindication if I were to unearth proof here that my focus of study was not in vain. So he says, study this. Sprig. You made. The dining room is currently haunted. Dream draught. A tonic frowned upon by the dispensaries of Cancross Yard. It is said to be a powerful soporific, and one that elicits wild dreams. Alagar studies the bottle, swirling the contents around. Lord Acheron was growing the leaves that make this potion. If we were to use a dose in place of a night lamp when we sleep, we might find out why. A chemist's bottle holding a swirling blue liquid. It smells faintly of dusk and rainfall. The herbal brew within is rumored to spark vivid dreams. If we are daring, we might replace the night lamp with this brew and see what dreams will come. Repeated doses will prompt different dreams. Okay. And whoever sleeps next can, take it. Delivery note. Dear X, please find your order enclosed. Firstly, the soporific draught you requested from Cancross. Be aware that its effects can be quite potent. Take a dose in place of your usual nightcap to encourage exotic dreams. Secondly, the vellum from Deep Spire Library. Our operator could not retrieve the entire folio, but did extract the page you described. As usual, there is no return process should you decide that the item is not what you require. We must also remind you that it would be imprudent to mention this or any of our transactions in public. It's M. Another piece of this puzzle. It gets starting to come together. Esther is getting sleepy. More meat for the kitchen, more moon grain to make moonshine. Seeker's Letter 2. Dear Gideon, the fragments of lore you are compiling are symbolic shards, scraps of shattered knowledge. They may seem incomprehensible in isolation, but gather them all and absorb their lessons. Only then, when you assemble the whole, will a new rite will be formed. The opening eye, the ashen hammer, the fallen sky, the broken spear. Each incantation opens the mind to deeper power and knowledge. Persist, brother. You are close to communing with the first circle of Nibiru. Once the eye has been opened, you will truly begin to see the glory that awaits. Gideon's Note 3. Simon's illness is worsening. The communion tells me that the only cure lies in pressing onwards, but I have already unleashed things I never wanted to see. This morning, the spawn of the first circle came again, writhing, putrid grubs, spilling out of the cracks in the boards. I do not know how to appease them, and I am so tired. Things are becoming untethered. In my fatigue, I have mislaid the Valhalla tear, or it has mislaid itself. I must begin to hiding the tools and ritual fragments. I cannot have my family fall prey to their effects again. Another piece. Perhaps this goes down here. Okay. Return Vitali to the archives to keep going through the book's healing dose. A chemist bottle holding a swirling restorative dosage shed from local healing herbs. We use in the right clinical setting to heal our injuries. Stay in the lab then. We'll get a good doctor to cook. Well, she can't cook. I guess she's not able to cook. She's not that kind of doctor. Chemical worksheet. A detailed hand-drawn sheet of chemical tables and molecular diagrams translated from some ancient tongue. It provides a guiding matrix for budding alchemists to lay out their calculations. This worksheet could support our activities in the laboratory. More Raven's Cap. And the doctor. Use it now. No task. Okay. That's right, it's gotta go in the dining room. Ruined pot. Oh, for the study. Unearthed in a pile of debris and abandoned on the cliff tops, its mud-smeared surface displays mysterious runic markings. Might be useful for something if we can discover its provenance. More. Fuck. Asta needs to sleep. We'll get her to make the dream draught. Oh, she can't yet. She lacks the dream stat. This goes in the lab. Don't think he found anything. Okay, then she can keep cooking. Nothing else in the archives. It's time to start digging Hawk. Basic meal. We should keep them fed, if we can. So we'll put this down here for a minute. More dream leaf. Okay, she can now make it. Aligar can now make the potion. Dream draught. Focus fern. Touch of leathery leaves, the color of an overcast day, when steeped in boiling water. There's herbals on the brew that can help focus and study. Okay, so that needs to be cooked. Dream draught. have two. Owl tea for the study. Oops, that's the moonshine. That's a different kind of study. We'll make this moonshine. More dream leaf. Hawk's starting to get sleepy. We should feed all of them soon. Moonshine. Master's also getting sleepy. Okay, they lack the ability to use that. Where did my night lamp go? Oh, there it is. I'm asleep. Caligar and Vitali are next. Another healing dose. Gift to the monkey. A document box with the new day. Package of some sort has been delivered. Atticus shifts the leather-bound box with his boot. I didn't see anyone drop it off, but I guess we might need to keep an eye on it for any other stuff that might appear. Indeed, Atticus. I recall that the Acrons often employed couriers to gather items from the town. Especially so as they began to withdraw from Black Sands themselves. And this box should be opened. To the monkey, the mechanist can get to work opening. Unmatching card. Caligar's note. I've only been in here for a few days, but this place is already beginning to get under my skin. It doesn't help that I can't access my own medicine here. I need to find some organic evidence of the family if I'm able to properly employ my skills. But as always, the discovery of a body would be a double-edged event. The intrigue of an organic trail paired with the grief of yet another death. And I have seen too much death in my work already. It is why I blunt the sharpness of the world with drink. On another note, it seems that I have met the hireling Atticus before. I do remember the incident at Aldworth and his hulking presence. He is a crude man, but an impressive physical specimen. Buddy loves Atticus. Let's feed our characters. This time. There. Caligar needs to sleep. Can she use the dream draught? She can. Oh no. Vitali should also sleep. Atticus can return here. Mechanist needs to open the document box. Or can it not be open? Oh, the laboratory. Okay. As soon as she's awake. Dream of a lost book. A vision drawn from a dream, hastily recorded on torn notepaper. I am adrift in the air, like a mote of dust suspended in the fragrant air of the dining room. Someone has been drinking. A tired-looking man in a crumpled gown and broken spectacles, Lord Acheron. He sighs, wiping something from his eyes as he places a card on the table in front of a ragged journal. The card is inscribed with some sort of machine code. He places it loosely into the journal and finishes his drink. Stumbling to his feet, he knocks the book from the table. It stumbles to the floor, sliding underneath a nearby cabinet. Performance test card in the dining room. Okay. Send Caligar in there. Vitali's all rested up. She had the dream, so she can do the task. What a journal. Vitali can study it. Raw meat. What the fuck? It's a cat! Mr. Tubbs! A portly barrel of soft gray fur. The cement gray cat purrs industriously as he stalks the rooms of the house. Unperturbed by the living or the dead, he maintains an air of self-sufficiency, never mewing for food or clawing for attention. An independent gentleman. His collar offers a name but no provenance, and he is not referenced on any residence list. Regardless, he patrols the corridors in the manner of a landlord inspecting his domain, pausing here and there to permit the occasional scratch behind its gray velvet ears. Well then. Dining room, guest rooms, kitchen. I'll keep him in the guest room, I suppose. He's not expecting to find a cat. Okay, Caligar can open the box. Guess I lack the stats to do this. Mr. Tubbs help? No, he cannot. Gideon's note 5. I heard the hounds again last night. I could not decide if their howling was real or just echoes in my mind. I've barely slept. Simon's condition is worsening. I must find a solution either in words or actions. The eye will not close again. I must find a way to blind it while I seek the cure. I can still see the key in my dreams. Her bifurcated head. That dark gaping maw. No, I am a seeker now, even without the ceremony. I will step beyond the threshold. I will compel the instruments of Nibiru to obey me. Another piece of the puzzle. Range. Ruins. Chapel code. Oh, this will unlock the chapel. I may need to start digging with Atticus. Give Caligar the stats needed. The chapel is now open. Seeker's Letter 3. Brother Acheron, we understand that in recovering the tear your son has been hurt. It is unfortunate and regrettable, but do not swerve from your path now. The knowledge and power you will require can cleanse your son of any ailment, void-born or otherwise. You must reach further, into the inner circles of the unseen twin. Only there will you find the power to heal your son and fortify your family for what is to come. Prepare your summoning chamber. Assemble the rite of the opening eye and speak with the key, guardian of the first circle. You must pass through the darkness to reach the illumination beyond. At last, the fog begins to clear. The Seekers are trying to contact Nibiru, a mythical domain of cosmic power, an unseen isle that lies hidden outside of natural time and space. Vitali frowns, looking concerned, yet excited. Engaging with these histories is enlightening. It is also dangerous. I think we can assume that Gideon has already begun his journey down that path. The chapel has clearly been used for ritualistic practices. Astor examines the thick oak door. We can assume it was locked to prevent his family from discovering his work. If he was hiding his activities here, then what might await us in the other sealed chambers? Reach through. Another journal. Study? No, not yet. We got some charcoal though that might help him. Still not enough. Catalytic. This can be used in here somehow, and I'm not sure how. Oh, it just supports, okay. That gives her enough to open the document box. Keep searching those cliffs, Hawk. You may need to dig to get tea for this spiel. Oops. Fucking ghost at the cliff. And it's locked. Atticus, no, there we go. Okay. Where's that trowel? Catalytic powder. Helpful for... Oh no, another piece of the ruin. You pilgrims at Hyrook. A reopening is at hand, but you do not appear to be seekers. I pray you have the insight to act wisely, where Gideon acted without real consideration. Acheron was a talented scholar, but his downfall was to trust the communion. Their knowledge and ambitions are flawed and naive. His use of Dreamleaf led to his discovery of the tear, but his subsequent actions were rash and ill-informed. I hope that your progress will be more enlightened. To this end, I offer you a part of the whole you seek. Make good use of this gift, and we might speak again. B. Mr. Tubbs actually wanders around the house. I'm curious, what happens if you sleep with Mr. Tubbs in the guest room? Meal's been made for everyone. Let's make some more moonshine. You pet Mr. Tubbs. Oh, I see. Excellent. So Mr. Tubbs is a bit of is the wild card, I guess. I don't have what I need. That's so. Where did my trowel go? There it is. I need to start digging. I need stuff to... I need tea for Vitali. Maybe he can search the archives some more. We also have more dream draught. Okay, oil, or machinist, and Dreamleaf. Keep digging, Hawk. Cool worksheet. Nice. Okay, I'm gonna pile everyone inside the... here. Shine can sit down here. Gift of the Snake can go in here. And we need this. Once Vitalia is finished. Oh, the machine room is haunted now. Up here. And eat. Eat, everyone. There we go. Everyone's been fed. Machine oil. No dream draught. That sucks. Oh well. Oh no, I put it up there. Algar can cook. Some more dream draught. Mechanist, use the guest room. If not, it's gonna be Caligar again. Atticus, keep digging. Would like to get some tea. Tea leaves. Or Vitali. Dream draught. Okay. Caligar can sleep. Focus Fern. Perfect. I need this. We have more Dreamleaf as well. Dream of a needle. The sound of a distant rainstorm blends with the dying crackle of a guttering candle. Moonlight will soon be the only illumination in this chamber, its watery light casting long shadows across a scarred desk covered in scattered journals and torn pages. The head and folded arms of an insensate man have pushed aside the books and quills. He used the wooden surface as an awkward pillow. His breathing is deep and slow, and his sleep holds no dreams. The source of his slumber, a glinting medical syringe, lies discarded in a low, dark drawer. That's for the study. We also have this focus for him, so let's cook it first. And more dream leaf. And more dream draughts. Meow, says Mr. Tubbs. Go to journal. Let's go inside. Let's look inside. Let's see what this is. More dream draught. Dream of a needle. Archives are haunted. It's healing sprig. Also make this oil, machine oil. Night falls, day 6. Gideon's note number 6. He was dying. Had no choice. I summoned the key while the veils were still thin, and I demanded that she take him into the gardens of the first circle. Rot will stop there. It will not worsen. But he cannot stay long without protection. He will become ash. He will wither away. I will raise myself further. I can enter Nibiru of my own volition. I will compel the needle to cure Simon. I will bring him home. Sophia must not know. It is best she believes that I have sent him to some private city infirmary. Once I have returned, she will see the Riesling and the glorious path ahead for all of us. The shadow is cast long across this house, but perhaps there is still time. What has Acheron done? Has he really offered up his own child to some eldritch horror? Real monsters are rotten seekers. It don't matter to me. It's abduction, plain and simple. Atticus clenches his fists. We must find the boy. I don't care if Gideon is ever seen again. Yes, Atticus, he seems to have made a pact with the Communion, or the entities they revere. And to hide this from his wife, such arrogance. Sophia Acheron is no idiot. Her intellect is easily a match for her husband. He will not be fooled. Esther adjusts her goggles anxiously. What a more pressing concern. Who is this key? A demon? A seeker? Or something else? If my memory serves me correctly, the key is an instrument of Nibiru, the chief doorkeep of the Unseen Twin. If Gideon has awoken such an entity, then we will face more fearsome dangers than the Communion's thugs. Boy, another piece of the puzzle. I realize now that I have had it. There we go. Misplaced. That might be it, I'm not sure. This can go to the records. And I need more tea. I'm not sure if Caligar can use the dream. Might be able to. We'll have Vitali look through the archives some more. Like Sprig and Dreamleaf. Oh shit, there's a ghost there. Keep digging, Hawk. You can sleep soon. Local worksheets. Caligar. No, she can't. Okay. He's injured. What happened? She's fucking alcoholic, that's why. Oh, damn it. It needs to drink booze. Drink, Caligar. Drink and be merry. You fucking drunk. my old friend. Jeez. Okay. And I also need Atticus to find wheat to make booze. Right, make some more tea. No tea. What the fuck? That's not good. I need another chemical worksheet. Raven's cap. Gives inspiration. Why not? Try it, Caligar. Consume the mushrooms. Gift of the bee. This should give her what she needs to make the tea. What the fuck? I guess not. The hell? Oh, this is for the... Let's see. The kitchen. Nothing else in there. Atticus needs to sleep. And so does Caligar. Sleep now. Tea. Caligar has gotten lots of sleep. Kiss. Atticus needs to keep forging. In about 10 minutes, we'll switch to our next game. Linting syringe. Bright needle winks under a stained glass cylinder. Medical hypodermic commonly used to extract or inoculate the blood. The dirty tube makes it hard to tell which of these it was used for last. That goes to Caligar. I don't think Vitali has the... No, he needs more inspiration. Ah. Booze. Vitali needs to sleep next. So should Aster after she finishes. Blood vial. A delicate test tube of blood extracted from one of the investigators. Despite the dark nature of the task, we might use this as part of some offering. Hunting syringe. I could just keep using it, I guess. Okay, let's get these both to sleep. And then I'm gonna make Vitali eat the mushrooms. There's a fucking ghost in there, damn it. More moonshine. Catalytic powder. Ramen in the kitchen. Okay. We finished those. Vitali, can you read this rune pot now? Can't. Alright. I want him to eat the mushroom, but there's a ghost in there. More blood vials. This syringe just doesn't go anywhere. Also, because she's injured, I want her to drink this healing dose. There you go. New day starts. Caligar needs to drink. Cook. Charcoal. Nice. Face the rune pot. Start task. Unmat's pot. Supports the kitchen. The runes around his Kitsuki repaired pot seemed to glow faintly, like glyphs traced in ember. Indika Unmat was a respected herbalist, known for her exotic and sometimes unorthodox dishes. She claimed that the culinary benefits of this urn derived from the expert selection of spices she kept within it. Her competitors were less generous, asserting that any special flavoring came from the mysterious metal that held the shards together. Still missing one piece of that puzzle. This goes in the kitchen. Moonshine. Or Caligar. Caligar to eat another mushroom. Give to the bee. Good. That'll be very helpful for her. We'll need to take more draught. Caligar is getting sleepy too. You could have more dreams. Great. Dream of a monocle. The hunched shoulders of a tall but crooked man loom over a blinking console somewhere in the machine room. He pokes and prods, turning dials and tapping gauges. An open journal rests on a dirty counter, the intricate symbols on its pages smudged by his fingers as he traces their equations. He grunts and plucks a shiny lens from beneath his furrowed brow, placing it on top of the book. After staring into the dust-filled air, the man rises stiffly from the machine, abandoning the book and monocle. He stumbles from the room and you awake, the sound of calculating engines still humming in your ears. Got something for Esther. Investigate. Dream of the monocle. Caligar is beginning to hunger. Those Italian Esther. Everybody's getting hungry. Oh, there would be a ghost in there. Shit. Irving's eyepiece. His rose-tinted monocle is constructed with an exotic bulbous lens that improves the clarity of smudged or faded text. The lens itself comes from a set of polished glass discs mounted in an ornate chest, washed ashore in Ashport during the Great Coriolis storm a few years ago. Once the quality of the lenses was realized, they became much sought after. Exchanging hands for extortionate sums across the city, Arlo Irving, head archivist of the Venatus Institute, was one of the first to commission eyewear manufactured with such lenses. Irving directed the reconstruction of Venatus's famous yet crumbling library. Yet a hawk cipher detail whimsically claimed that he could read the books through their covers. It was generally surmised that his remarkable acuity came from some magical quality imbued in the monocle itself. This is for the archives. Another journal. I don't think Natalie has what it takes to read it, though. It's right there. Aster and Hawk. Caligar. Caligar is going to need to take another dream draught. Okay. Once daylight hits, we'll switch to the next game. Dream of the Cliffs. This is for Atticus. A drawing from a dream, hastily sketched on torn notepaper. I am standing in a sea of sallow grass, the wind folding around my feet in waves. The pale child, the acrid sun, is here. He looks at me quizzically and then points towards the silhouette of a rocky granite outcrop on the distant bleak cliffside. When I turn back, he is gone, but the shape of the stone stays in my mind as I wake. Perhaps it is here somewhere, within sight of the mansion. Okay, this is definitely for... Oh, and that should give Vitaly what he needs. Grievance cap. Okay, let's get Bach to investigate. We're gonna feed Caligar mushrooms, as always. Simon's note 3. I did it. I took the necklace and hid it in my den. I forgot to lock the chapel, so I got in and stole it. It took a terrible long time to get it here, as it was weird heavy to carry. I'm all tired and hurting from being so poorly. I know I should not have taken it. I will be angry. But I done not want it to hurt him or Ma. Maybe now it's inside the house, I'll make it better too. I hope so. I'm sorry. Haas's tear. A small pendant composed of a simple brass clasp holding an eerie blood-red crystal. The interior of the tear seems to glow with liquid illumination, as if it holds a strange boiling mist. The tear was recovered from a Valhajian burial site and brought to Black Sands during the Veld War. It is said that it can provide the wearer with power and insight, will extract a toll on the user's body in return. Items of occult power such as this might be enhanced given the right location and offerings. Let's go in there. For sure. Gift of the Owl. Gideon's note 4. I cannot find my tools anymore. It's as if the house is shifting around me. Scraps and relics wandering from room to room. I'm so weary with study and drained from ritual that I cannot think straight. I'm attempting to keep track of the fragments, and I know I could acquire replacements if need be. But I fear I'm stumbling into the darkness without the protections I need. The communion is urging me on, offering support from afar, but they are not subject to the nightmares that I see in every shadow. And another piece. Is this the final piece? That scared the shit out of me. I wasn't scared. Not at all. The opening eye. A right to break the threshold of the first circle. A knock on the gates of Nibiru. Draw an arched door upon the wall in white chalk. Circumscribe the form in a circle, and at the apex of the arch draw a 12-point star. With your forehead pressed against the star, sing the song of the autumn key. Hold the edges of the frame. Stare beyond the wall, eyes wide, until the tears drop to the floor. Close your eyes, close your mind, and open the door. Fragments have formed the opening eye. The ritual that the Seekers urged Gideon to complete. It is a window into Nibiru's hidden domain. Vitaly shuffles around the chamber, nervous but excited. It might seem foolish, but I think we must perform this rite to further our investigations. Really, Vitaly, you are treacherous.
Vitaly, are you mad? These evil rites should be burned, not performed. We should look for the Acherons here in the real world.
Atticus shakes his head vigorously.
Gideon may have been insane, but we need not follow him into this lunacy.
I hear you, Atticus, but it's clear that Gideon was determined to carry out this ritual. Perhaps we can find fresh tracks by replicating his actions. If you trust in my judgment during the Kiel fever epidemic, then please, remain in step with us now.
Mr. Caligar, you pulled me and my boys through that outbreak. Still owe you for that.
Atticus wrings his hands, uncertain.
I'm not happy with Vitaly's plan. It won't end well. I'll do as you ask, for now.
So this is in the chapel. I have plenty of inspiration. I should be able to pull this off. I think Vitaly should be the one to do it, but I need to feed everyone first. Let's get everyone fed. And Caligar needs her daily booze as well. I suppose they should also sleep some. Oh, Mr. Tubbs is in the... Let's pet the kitty. And she can drink Vitaly's note too. It is difficult not to despise that lump, Atticus. If we did not require the presence of someone to hunt and carry, then I would have sent him away, or at least petitioned to the others that we did so. The horrors of Hyrule are not those which we can bend with hands like clubs, or beat with hands like clubs. They are not something we can take out into the garden, hit with a spade, and then bury in the thin dirt. Atticus no doubt wishes to do. This place is a puzzle box of many dimensional complexity. As an example, whatever ritual incantations Lord Acheron may have uncovered, it is only my learning and insight that will allow us to engage with them in the correct manner. Something ain't right with Vitaly. Okay, so pet the cat, but I can't sleep because Mr. Tubbs will not let us sleep. That's good. Okay, he's moved. Finally. Let us sleep. We shall sleep in Vitaly and perform the ritual. Okay. This is for the machine room. Vitaly can begin the ritual. The opening eye. What secrets shall we uncover? Vitaly. Simon Acheron. The world melts into a watery gloom. A vision shimmers into view as if stepping through a waterfall. Hello? Are you from the outside? Have you come to take me home? Please take me home. It is so strange here. Roots like worms and worms like roots. I don't like it and I can't get out. I am slow and empty. Am I falling asleep? Am I dreaming? The one who brought me here won't take me home. She comes and goes, singing like a howling star, her head all broken up. Simon's image begins to waver. Please, tell Pa I'm sorry about the necklace. And I miss him. And Ma and Amy and Tubbs. I am the key. The owner of gates, the opener of gates, instrument of the end. I am the keeper of Nibiru's secret paths. You have come knocking for me to return the boy. I will not. He is dreaming in the garden of the first circle. He will sleep with the shadows on the shore, a tribute to the end. Turn back, fleshlings. These roads are not for you. Oh, shit! What's happening? Oh. Chapter 2. They are awakened. The dance has begun. Parables of the opening eye. Crack in the world? The key was returned to Nibiru, but a dark runic scar remains, etched into the floor of the chapel like a wound. A fetid draught rises from its inky outlines. This is a tear in the world, left behind in the aftermath of a dark ritual. Most present, this fracture might provide ingress to things from beyond. mend this fracture, we need to banish the entities it gives birth to. That.
What in the hell was that? It felt like the sky had become an ocean and drowned us all. Yeah, Gron boy. Like a ghost. Half here and half elsewhere, thin and hollow. Atticus rubs his eyes with grubby fingers. And that beast, that horror, its head like a broken root. Was it real? And if so, what has Gideon done?
That entity was an instrument of Nibiru, a lesser demon of the end. Something I thought that I would never witness. Vitali shivers, but his response betrays an edge of excitement. The key is the custodian of the first circle, the sentinel on the shore. I've read of such beings, but never dreamed I would see one. Perhaps the window through which the key spoke is not fully closed. There's a mark here on the ground, an uncanny rift or fissure, and a card here seemingly dropped by the boy. Caligar plucks the key card from the grimy boards. We should monitor this scar in case its presence conjures more nightmares. Very wise, Caligar. We need more information on how these unholy rituals operate and who is involved. I suspect that there are more occult texts locked in the secure cases of the archives. I will send word to my colleagues at Venatus. Perhaps they can provide us with assistance in accessing them. Ritual remnant, a flickering form, a sense of frozen fear. Something is here and also not here. Its flickering presence sends shivers through the air. Increase the madness level of nearby characters every hour. Okay, I see. In other words, shit just got very, very real. So I'm gonna set up for next time, I suppose. We're gonna get these out of the haunted rooms. Mr. Tubbs is perfectly safe. He does what he wants. So the chapel is not usable right now. So next time I play this, Aster needs to go through the school code. This should be easy enough. I think she has everything she needs. Yeah, she does. Okay. We have moonshine, but no food. That's unfortunate. Well then. That was very, very good. I like that a lot. Now, I'm not too big on card games, but I think my issue is I'm not big on card games in a turn-based action RPG format. Or not action, but turn-based RPG format. That said, Painted Grill Conquest is the exception. I actually really like that game. Let's save and exit. Very good. We have a few more games to check out on our list here. We're going to switch to Repose for a small bit, maybe an hour. And then we'll finish with the Children of Clay. But for now, take a few minutes break. Grab something to drink. Use the restroom or stretch your legs. I will return shortly. All right. So that was Horror at Highbrook, the first chapter. Definitely a very good, very cool game, very interesting game. I really enjoyed the build-up and the ambience for it. Tomorrow, I'll probably do chapter 2. And I have a few other Lovecraftian horror games set up too for night tomorrow. We're going on to our second game now. This one is called Repose, which reminds me a lot of World of Horror. It's got that same kind of visual style. Okay, so this looks like a keyboard game. They really... Oh, there we go. Ooh. Interesting. I think the grainy looks best. No, oh, this can actually be played with a controller. Okay, perfect. Give me 1 more second. I may need to restart for it to read my gamepad, but that's fine. Yeah, okay. Let me restart this game. I'll probably read my controller. Here we are. Akupara Games. So Attila we're told. Doesn't want to read my controller. That's fine. Let's see. Maybe in the settings. There we go. Okay, I just had to. What happened to get through the clue? Oh, we stopped it at chapter 2. Yeah, this looks like World of Horror, yeah. It's called Repose. I'm gonna play this for about an hour and then end with a short and sweet horror game called Children of Clay, but we're gonna check this out next. I just got my controller to work. I just had to enable Steam inputs. Forward, back, turn left, toggle inventory, light stick, X, handgun, 10 use. Okay. New game. Oh, and he's already dead. So I can run with this. It's not good, is it? Myself. Okay, let's go down this hallway. I've not played World of Horror since the patch for 1.0. Gotta revisit it, yeah. I watched Doom Guide play it. I think it was last year. It looked really good. Oh shit. Dead. Hey, finally. Sorry to wake you up, but you seem to be having a bad dream. I have to brief you somehow as it's your first day at the company. By the way, my name's Cynthia. I work in the front office. Nice to meet you. You're our new oxygen tank collector. Your job is to explore the facility and retrieve lost oxygen tanks. Even the cutscenes, yeah, 90 PC game, black and white. Don't ask me why. I've been working here for months now and I'm not even sure what the company's name is. I don't think anyone here knows. Don't let the fool sign you. Cafe Void is just the surface. Doesn't need Junji Ito come out to show the truth, yeah. Max on my bloodborne insight. I've seen too much. Anyways, that's the job. The cleaners will take care of the bodies. I know I just woke you up, but you should get some rest before you start. The facility is huge. But try not to get lost. I'm here if you need help or just someone to talk to. There is no going back. Personal. That's how that Cthulhu clue was playing out, man. I started a ritual. I did the ritual and all hell broke loose. Okay. And now this one. Very much the same. I believe the closest town is about 34 kilometers away from. We really only got us. So good luck. Please don't disappear on us like Aaron did. Yeah, the big muscle cowboy doesn't want anything to do with it. The doctor is an alcoholic and she needs to drink every day. The scholar is going insane reading everything because he already knows about all this shit. And the machinist just tinkers around. He's not super involved yet. But she's sent for help at the end of chapter 1. The counter in the corner shows your energy. This is the number of steps you can take. Oh, good, there's energy. When you run out of energy, you die and wake up the last bed you slept in. You can always go back to your bed to rest, recharge, and update your save code. Save codes? Are you serious? We're going back to save codes? Hydrate. Alright. Save codes means a notepad is needed. Okay, turning does not use energy. Good. Some kind of library? Use your light stick to illuminate low visibility areas. Equip the light stick directly, or open your inventory and select it from there. I really like this game being presented like a old school dungeon crawler. Oh shit. Use your axe to kill enemies. Equip it directly or open your inventory. Okay, so axe. Raise your axe. When it's fully raised, step forward to swing it. Otherwise, if you step into an enemy, you die. Missed, but gotcha. Didn't even know what the hell that thing was. Okay, so this will let me see a few blocks forward. Oh, the slack of map is gonna throw me off. Oh, I'm fucking dead already. Okay. The monsters have shotguns, so that's good. Got you. Gotcha. Okay, it is kind of timed, I guess. Use computers to open doors. Doors will remain open even if you die. Okay. Door open number 1. So I'm getting like a roguelike kind of premise. It seems like I can die all I want. Oh, I'm back where I started. Okay. Oh, jeez. This is not screenshots. F17908B. Sleeping respawn enemies, though. That's the question. No, it doesn't. Okay, good. Enemies, once they're dead, they're dead. Oh no, they come back. Shoot. Doors open. Check corpses if they have an oxygen tank up. If they do, you'll collect them automatically. What down? Level 2, Underground City. I'm about to fucking die. Out of energy. No. Dead again. Luckily, doors stay open. Or whatever it is. Okay, so this door is what's unlocked. Go ahead and just go this way. We got his oxygen tank. Level 2. Need to be careful with my use of energy. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. What was that? 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fuck. Just walk past him. Well, that wasn't a bad start. Aaron. Sorry for my intrusion, but your dreams are the only place where I can talk to you. And you will need my help. Not everyone's gonna be as friendly to you as Cynthia. You need to get to the data tunnels, but you won't be able to access them from here. Check out that abandoned building. There used to be a passage that leads to the tunnels. And try not to sleep for too long. Who knows what they're doing to you while you're not paying attention? I have no idea either. Oh, okay then. What is that? I can't walk to it. Okay. I don't know what that is. Shit. Got you. He was gonna shoot me. He was about to. I saw him cock the gun. Not this time. Okay, so that circle's a waste of energy. BWN 22001. Got you. Might not even need to kill him, right? This is a dead end. No oxygen tank. Okay. Got you. What if they're friendly? We'll never know. I don't think him cocking his shotgun and pointing it at me means they're friendly. Or maybe it does. Maybe that's how they express friendship. Shoot some birdshot at me. Always, it's nice to get my daily lead supplements. Fuck. Oh, I need that bed. Yes. The door's open. But I'm gonna die. Joseph. Hey. That's the entrance to the featureless maze behind me. I don't think anyone who went in there ever came back. I heard there's something really special in there. Maybe Aaron's wandering the maze too. He was the guy who used to do the job you're doing now. He wasn't too talkative, and one day he disappeared. Spent most of his time with Cynthia. Maybe she knows what happened to him. You should ask her before whatever happened to him happens to you too. Let me know if you find out anything. I'm about to fucking die. I need a bed. No. 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 Good. I'm back. Well, at least, have a good idea which way to go now. Weird. Okay, there's no tank on that guy. Got you. Got you again. Shit, I wasted energy. This sucks. Okay. Where the fuck is Joseph, man? I'm already lost. I'm already lost. I'm gonna die. Through here. There he is, but... What's up? Okay, he's right there. I can just turn. Literally at the corner. What's up, Joseph? Underground maze, huh? What the fuck is that? Oh. The featureless maze. Lightning? Whoa. The anomaly gave you energy strain. Okay. The barrier blocks your path. That would have been bad. What is that? You really went in the maze. I could see the blood on your suit. I told you, reversing the featureless maze is no small feat. I don't think you're quite there just yet. Like anyone is. If Aaron really went in there, he's probably dead by now. I wish I understood what he meant. I wish I could see where I'm going. I wish these monsters would stop haunting me. He chopped me down before I could chop him. What the fuck? Okay, let's try it again. That strain sucks. Let's do it this way. If I could just... Oh boy, okay. I'm thinking, maybe Joseph is right. Just not ready. So... let's go past Joseph. What's behind him? It's just a door. Shit. Okay, I guess I do have to go in. There's no sidestepping, is there? I don't think there was sidestepping. If I could sidestep, I could kill him, but... oh, well. I'm about to get killed by energy drain anyway. know what that circle is. Can I get to it? I can't chop these down. I guess I can't get to it. There's just too many monsters everywhere. Back to the bed. Am I really supposed to go back to Cynthia? There's no way, right? No other entrances. I can't kill Joseph. Okay. Let's try. This maze one more time. Gets me down every time. Even if I'm fast enough. There he is. Okay, I can prepare a swing and turn. Chop down gunshots. These guys don't mess around. Let's see. It sucks that. Chop down again. Okay, let's run back to Cynthia. Oh, there is no way back. Shit, I'm about to die then. I really do just gotta time that better, I guess. Unless I missed something. Let's be thorough. Ah, other door. Now it makes sense. He was right, I was not supposed to go down there. Let's go get energy back. Another corpse. Abandoned building, level 2. It's me again. What is it like to sleep in a dilapidated apartment building? You will have to get used to sleeping in strange places. I want to remind you it's still not too late to stop, but I think it'd be worthy of your time if you followed me. I mean, if you don't want to end up like the astronauts, I'll help you escape, but you need to get to the bottom first. Search for the passage that leads to the data tunnels. Poor astronaut, he's like getting drained from his fucking eyeball. Shit, okay, let's go this way. Chop down. Some kind of library. Dead end. Shit. Okay. We still know if this way is worth going to. Level 4 door. There's the level 1 computer. Stairs, or ladder. Ladder, sorry. Stairs. Oh shit, okay. I'm about to die. But the door is unlocked. Spooky. Very spooky. 1 second. Okay. This door is now unlocked. This is the way I came. Oh shit, okay, dead end. Let's run back and get stamina. Alternate paths. Okay, here we are. No visibility. Ooh. There's a hole there. Okay, it's just plossing back down at the bed, which is fine. I'm gonna go straight this way. What a labyrinth. What is that? Frida was named Employee of the Year last week. Good for her. We haven't seen her since then. Strange. Joseph says it's been like this whenever someone got the award. I don't blame her. Digging through buildings like this is anything but pleasant. There's nothing here but mold and trash. People took everything that wasn't nailed down. It was useless as this building is now. It would outlive us all. Wonder what the astronauts were looking for here. One of the corpses was holding a piece of paper with this written on it. 07DE. It looks like the fragment of a save code. It might lead to somewhere interesting if I manage to find the rest of it. Let me put down a... Let me open up a notepad. 07DE. Because I don't know if it's gonna show me the entirety of the code, or there, 07D. Not likely, eh? Down ladder. Let's go. Ah, level 4 door. What is that? You found some tea. Drinking it from your inventory restores your energy. Additionally, if you have a map, drinking your tea will highlight your position for a moment. You can only carry 1 flask of tea, but you can always come back to refill your flask after you rested or died. That's good. A useful tool to have, but... really hope... Okay, there we go. reach that bed. Okay, let's keep going. Shit, let's go this way. That's the way I came. Okay, I just went in a circle. This is where the T is. This is where the T is, and then the bed. Okay. So do not go left. Rest. Up ladder. Let's go through this middle area. Got you. These horrors wandering these hallways need to be put down. Fuck. I mean, drink that tea. Oh, I'm almost at a... Wow, this area is huge. Okay. I'm almost at a ladder. Just memorizing. Yeah, so bed, ladder. Go to the middle, don't go right. So I am going the right way. I just have no tea. Which could be bad. Oh, that reveals a lot. Here we go. Got you. Up the ladder. Level 2 pad. Door open number 2. Good. Whoa. Is this... I think this is back where the bed is? I hope so. Yes. Okay. Let's open. Where's the number 2 door, though? I'm gonna go get the tea again. Got the key in. Now we can rest. A1200DEF. Okay. If I drink the tea, it shows me the map. Right? Oh, it shows me where I'm at. Now, from this bed, looks like there's another pathway. I keep going north. Okay, let's see where it leads. This is the door that I unlocked. What? Okay. Underground city. Oxygen tank collected. What the fuck is that? Whoa. Portal. Okay, it's time to drink tea. Okay, this leads to the data tunnels. Good, making good progress. Here. Level 3, data tunnels. So you made it to the data tunnels. Good. This is where your descent begins proper. Some of these creatures have a light bulb on their head for some reason. Also some extra limbs they scavenge from the trash. These creatures won't even flinch when you hit them with your axe. This is why I left a handgun under the pillow you're sleeping on right now. Take it when you wake up. You're gonna need it. They're inside you already. But... Whoa. I have gun? You found Aaron's handgun under the pillow. Equip it directly, or open your inventory selected. Okay, so this button. Once you can fire it once equipped. Each shot costs 5 energy points. Only use it when it's necessary. Costs energy to shoot bullets. I'll keep that in mind. Or T. T and then rest. Okay, this goes in an area. A circle. Into the eye. Okay, door number 2 is open. That should let me... Oh, there's a monster there. We don't need our tea, but we can rest. This is door 2. And it's gonna take a while to get 5 open, looks like, so what's this? At first I thought the data tunnels were just an elaborate maze of metro lines, but I haven't found any metro trains anywhere, or people. Its sole function seems to be to transfer data, but for some reason it took the vague shape of metro tunnels, and the data flowing through here is mostly gibberish to me. The whole level seems to exist for the sake of it. Either that or its true purpose is just beyond my comprehension. No further code, huh? Doesn't go anywhere, so... left. Okay. Whoa. Oh, he tried to shoot my ass. He's too slow, though. I don't think they... Oh, shit. Got you. We're fast on the draw. Okay, there's shit over here I can grab. Right? No? Nothing there. Dead. It was fooled. This sucks. I'm probably gonna die here. Even with tea, it's gonna take a while to get back. Okay, so... top. I might be able to get at least a, the key open. Oh, God. There we go. So we're about to enter another room. Shit. That's the level 1 door. I really hope there's a... Shit. No. Okay. I don't need to waste time going. So, 1, 2. I think if I go left and just make a straight line forward. Be the most efficient use of. Oh, I need tea. Efficient use of my energy. Don't need to kill him. I do need to kill the next one. Got you. Oh, there's 2 there. Shit. 3 even. Sucks. This sucks real bad. 4. Oh my gosh, okay. Okay. It's not the worst. But it does use a lot of energy. Got you. Another quarter. Hopefully I can get the fucking key. There it is. Need this. Yes. And rest. Okay, good. Refill my tea. Okay, so north and east is next. It looks like some of these platforms can move. If I'm reading this map correctly. Right. Okay. Okay, so that skips him. That's good. Gonna need my tea soon. We're good, we're good. We're alright. Okay, another shortcut, looks like. Whoa. Right. Just a little distorted. What the fuck? No. He opened up a hole where I was gonna shoot him. Oh shit, I don't have any fucking tea. Damn. Now this is a type of... I don't want to say roguelike. It's not like a true roguelike, but it's one of those games where your knowledge of the map and the mistakes you make what lets you beat the game. It's, and with the energy, it's almost like a, oh shit, I guess speedrun is the best way to put it. Another one. Another one. Tea time. This is a shortcut that I need to take. Okay, now in here there is a monster I need to beat with the axe. Got you. Okay, level 1 door is open. That should be. Oh, no. That's fine. Door stays open, which is the important part. Okay, with that, rest up and continue. You can just go north. West side first. Okay, we're here. Dead. Oh shit. Okay, we're about to hit the wire hub. Nice. Joseph's wrong, by the way. Cynthia won't be able to tell you what happened to me. I'm trying to talk to her in her dreams too. No luck yet. You seem to be guiding her better than I am. After Joseph told her you went to the data tunnels, she started following you. She will catch up with you shortly. I hope at least. You're getting closer and closer to the bottom. Look for an elevator. I think it's somewhere in the south of the wire hub. From here on, it's the only way down. Wire hub. Oh man, okay. No oxygen tank. Where am I? Okay, so I'm just in a corridor. Go left. Oh, shit. Okay. That's all spikes. Okay. You tried. Okay. Another tunnel. Should lead me to a keypad. I hope. Yes. What? There's computer mimics? I just got the achievement for getting my ass beat by the... Alright. I see how this game wants to play it. That was a dirty fucking trick. That was a dirty fucking trick. gonna shoot it. I'm gonna shoot it. I'm gonna shoot the damn thing. Shoot this fucking computer mimic. Yeah, I see you. Eat this. Nice. Have a rest. That's some tea. I want that extra energy though. Okay. Is that a mimic too? No, it's not. Okay. That's a waste of energy. Now it's got me paranoid. Okay, level 5. It's gonna be a very long walk there. Gun down to my prime. Once more. FT? Yeah, FT. Come here. More notes. At this point, I'm not even sure what I'm looking for. This level seems to be the brain part of the facility. The amount of data hoarded up here is enormous. You could reconstruct today's entire internet from it. Wires go all the way to the surface. If you can sort it out, that is, because the data is completely unorganized and the company doesn't seem to do anything with it. This isn't the bottom, however. There's still hope I find out what's the deal with the astronaut corpses if I just keep digging further. Shit. Got you. What was that? Just ambience, I guess. Okay, so I did waste a energy doing that, but that's fine. Next area. Shit. This is not good. Okay. Have to drink a tea soon. Yep, there it is. Holy shit. They're not happy. I might be able to kill this thing. I also might be able to just dodge it. Fuck it. Not you. Another note. Okay, this is most interesting. Well, most of the data here has been processed beyond the point I can make sense of. I found a string that, for lack of a better word, feels familiar. This looks like it's part of the save code. I found a fragment of an abandoned building at level 2. Let's see if we can find or decipher the remaining digits. Okay, so NE17. N17. Where the fuck am I? I'm trying to figure out where I am. I have a vague idea, but this is the other tunnel. Okay, I think I'm going the right way. The bad news is I have no... What is that? Do I shoot it? Do I hit it with that axe? I don't... Long fucking walk back, so... Okay, the axe works on that. Good. No, I see that shit. Fool me with a fucking bed mimic? Hell no. Hell no. I'm about to die though. We'll get the... Please don't let this be a mimic. Yes. Okay. Shortcut unlocked. Very good, but I'm about to fucking die. Okay. Block 5 has been unlocked, so... so I need to undo this barrier, but I need to get to the wire hub overview, I guess, so... Up and at them. Okay. So... That's been unlocked, so I need to... I'm a little lost here. There's a... This way I came. This way, right? No, wait. I think I went the wrong way. I am a little lost. Shit. Okay. I'm gonna run back. Night watches you. Electric op. That's the T. So right. Keep going till I can't go anymore. Right. Here we are. Okay, this is the correct path. Level 4, wire hub overview. And no map. To our wits. That's you. Wire hub. Low visibility. And no bed. That's good. T. I have no T? What? Oh shit. I'm fucking... Damn it. Why did I have no T? I thought it... Okay. One more time. This just... Right. Need my axe for the first monster. Three. 1, 2, 3. Kill. 3. Okay. Level 4, the wire hub. Okay, now I have T. Yeah. Got you. Shit, okay. Forward 2, I guess, right? Okay, good. Made it. No other ways. Got you. Okay, those things move. That's kind of unnerving. Better. Want to use my gun if I don't have to. Okay. You're up. Where? What is this? Shoot the barrier to destroy it. Excellent. Let's also get some tea. Need this. Okay, with the barrier destroyed, we can continue. Oxygen tank. Oxygen tank. Two, three, four, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Elevator. It goes down. Nice. Level 0? What is that? Constellations? Oh boy. Oh no. Employee of the year. The boss was right about you. You sure sleep a lot. That's right. I can appear in your dreams too. They're company property after all. I see Aaron left my keycard for you. How nice of him. It led you to my domain. Have fun. I'm going to keep an eye on you. Oh boy. Level 5, the dead internet. Okay. The maps are getting stranger and stranger. Alright. What? Drained by 10. This sucks too because there's no tea. More energy efficient to walk around these things, these holograms. Well, I'm sure someone understands what that means. Because I don't. Hope they understand. Oh no, not the train. Okay. It definitely wants me to go through, but I might be able to see if there's a key card somewhere. Sucks. It wants me to use my tea here. No tea in inventory? No. What happened to my tea, man? Okay, we'll have to go through the mysterious. Oh no, I can make it. I just lost an energy because I went after the notes. Without that, I should be able to reach that computer. Got it. Okay, the door is open now. I am curious what's in that other thing, though. Let's see what's in it. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Nice throw. Just marked up. Anomalies. They stack. Oh no. Shit. Let's try one more time. I am curious if I can reach the end of that. I think if I walk around, it should. I should have the energy to make it. Shoot. Another one. Okay. There's no way in hell you can make it past there. Let's go. Let's go. We're supposed to go. Oh, fuck. am I looking at? Oh, goodness. Going somewhere. Okay, so left, right. It sucks that there's no T. I thought that was a monster. Okay, that door is open. Let's see what's ahead, because I'm definitely gonna die. I don't think I have the energy to make it back to the bed. Dead again. Okay. I can just keep going forward here. Level 4 door. Strange blocks. Okay, so there is a monster on this corner. Got you. So left here. Got you. And another one. And another one. Boom. Boom. And the quick draw. This is really freaky. Okay. No choice. Oh. There's the door. And T. Oh, nice. Okay. With the T, I should be able to make it through the question mark area. Okay. Oh, energy drain. This game is a lot more like a puzzle. Shit. Okay. No more movements. Big T. Okay. No map here either. This sucks. It kind of reminds me of, shit, what was that game called? Fear and Hunger? Not like a direct one-to-one comparison, but the idea that you need to make exact choices, exact movements, exact actions to reach the end. Which I like. No! Fucking dead. Okay. T. There we go. Energy drain. Okay, I have an exact amount to kill 2 of those monsters with my axe. As long as I don't make any mistakes in movement. Yeah. T. And there is a monster I need to shoot. Got you. Oh. The quick draw. What? Where am I? Stop. It's my turn. Sorry, I didn't mean to sound rude. It's Aaron who's guiding you, right? He's trying to communicate with me too. I just can't decipher the messages. Is he talking to you in your dreams? That makes sense. I haven't slept for a week now. Those astronauts you're looting, they came from Earth. I think that's obvious. That means whatever this place is, it's not Earth. In hindsight, that should have been obvious too. Like, do you remember ever getting, paid since you work here? You just keep going. I'm gonna stay here for an hour. For now, I'm tired. Maybe this is a dream too. Maybe there isn't a clear line between dreaming and wakefulness. You might have figured it out already. The employee of the year wasn't a real person. Nothing on level 5 is real. But the sod seems to be designed to do one thing. Cover up the bottom. I guess she wasn't expecting me to set up tea tables along the way. That's what your next stop is. The actual bottom of the facility. I've been there. It's not a pretty sight. That's where you're gonna find the boss. Good luck. Bottom. Ooh. Oh, okay. 120 energy. Okay. Level 1 door. I can't dig further than this. I tried. But this is the bottom, the foundation. I was looking for answers, I guess, but I think I found something else down here. Empty husks of homes and a dead internet. Traces of destroyed communities. Where are these from? If you're reading these, none of your friends followed you down here either, right? Quite disappointing, honestly. I was hoping to find much more. Scratching my head in confusion. Because I haven't the fuckiest idea what's going on. That way. Shit, okay. Oh, God, okay. Cafe Void. It's just floating there. Gotcha. Door 1 is open. We now have tea. Which should help. Sorry, there's no map. My map is a mess. Low visibility. Ruins. Got you. Another strain. Got you. Where am I? What's going on? I'm so lost. What? Got you. Oh, goodness. Got you. Oh, okay. Drink the tea. Drink the tea. What the fuck is that? What is that? What do we have here? We really came all the way down here, looking for answers. Human curiosity, I swear. That's what led all these astronauts to this planet too. And for what? It's not as exciting as you hope. You know, you humans left a lot of debris in outer space. Satellites, machinery, used oxygen tanks, corpses of failed astronauts. All that debris formed this world, and it made entirely of your trash. Oh, is that what this is? It's not Earth, but it's inherently human, right? This world even welcomed you from the beginning. You could have fit in nicely. You even made some friends. You just had to keep digging. Well, so be it. I'm not going to hold you back. Now off with you. It's not like we're understaffed. Keep in mind, though, this trash had to come from somewhere. What is he going on about? Can I kill him? Pointless. I got an achievement. I don't even wear a tie to work anymore. Oh, God. Okay. Here we are. The wire hub. Level 3. Data. Is he just sending me back? Oh, God. Underground city. Joseph, where have you been? Don't tell me you went all the way down. You must have seen a lot. Good for you, I guess. You probably discovered the company's big secret, too. I knew it for years. In my previous life, I was probably one of the astronauts whose corpse you looted. When I put 2 and 2 together, it bothered me. It's all the same, honestly, and I might be a better mechanic here than an astronaut on Earth. And even if that's not the case, both of these planets will die when the sun eventually burns out. Just joking. I don't know what you did down there, but the company sure didn't like it. The creatures raided the entire city. The only option is the featureless maze, the one I was telling you about. The entrance is behind me, to the west. Hope you find whatever you're looking for. Take care of yourself. No tea. This sucks. Okay. Can I at least... The bed is destroyed. Of course. Okay. It's the only way. It's the only way. Shit. Okay. Yes. There's really nothing left for us here anymore, is there? The boss was right about something. These people are indeed our friends. Joseph might be a lost cause, but I hope Cynthia makes it. She got far without me being able to help. This place is not home. Don't let it absorb you like it does with all the debris. The only thing between you and freedom is the featureless maze. You should be used to dungeons at this point, but I painted lines on the walls for you to follow. It's sort of a final gift for me. Thank you for trusting me. Lines on the walls. Void 23441. Alright then. Now that I have the gun, I can deal with that monster. Shit, okay. I've already wasted 5 energy, so this sucks. Holy shit, okay, stick to the left wall is what it boils down to. Do not turn right under any circumstance unless there's a keypad. Unless the keypad is around that corner. No, of course not. I'm probably gonna die now. Shit. I made it, yes. Nah, that's a... Yep, I knew it. There's no way. Okay, so... At least... So, this is gonna be a long walk. Shit. That's the way I have to go, but... Game does not like you to explore. Uses that to trick you. I found this in my pocket when I woke up. I'm sure we used to be a good team. I wish I had any recollection of it. Rita, me, Joseph, Cynthia, new kid. We all used to be astronauts, I guess. Okay. That's the way out, but... I'm sure I can get the shortcut. This is gonna suck. Okay, that's not a mimic. There we go. Nice. And tea. Yes. Oh, I'm actually gonna die. Okay. Drink tea in bed. Maximize our energy use. I might actually beat this. I think I'm at the end already. Very cool game. Good cheap game. Okay, this is the way out. Jeez, okay. I'm gonna get strained 6 times. Shit. I'm just gonna get crushed. Do I have tea? Yeah, I have tea. Okay. Okay. There's a crusher right behind that one. So to time it. Here we go. Forward, forward, forward. Okay, energy doesn't strain, so I just stayed here. That's good. Shit. No, that's definitely the wrong way. No energy. Oh, no. Fuck. Okay. Well, I need to use T. Use T in the question mark area. T. Don't shoot too fast. Okay. Oh god. Okay. Got you. Motherfucker, you led me to a dead end. Shit, now I'm really lost. Okay. There it is. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna die though, I think. Here's the last one. That's okay, so that's ADZ. Let me mark that on my. Let's see. 07 Dead Zone 17 is the code. I couldn't find it anywhere, so I brute forced it. It worked. As a trade-off, I won't make it to the end. Hopefully it was worth it. If not for me, for the others. Oh, I think I made it. Freedom. Oh. Oh. Shit. I took my helmet off in space. One. Very cool. What is this? Oh, they actually give an option so that you don't have to memorize the save codes. Yeah, interesting. However, how do I input a save code? Because I have the secret one. Ah, here we go. Okay, so the save code is 07 Dead Zone 17. Level 404 at the Dead Zone. That's good. She's out there somewhere. The light coming from the mountain mine is my best bet. Gotta waste time exploring this area. Well, I guess I have to waste time exploring this area. Follow the path. Shit. Okay. Another one. So many of these things. Okay. Level 5 door. I see something. Oh, okay, I see. Not a mimic. Trying to map out the facility in its entirety is impossible. I tried. So far, I thought level 6 was the bottom of this planet, and while that's true in a physical sense, I'd say you have to dig far deeper to get to the Dead Zone. You have to reach its subconscious. How do you even make a map of that? Yeah, you can't. The Dead Zone seems to be the company's trash bin. As far as I'm concerned, everything else on this planet is made of trash. Well, almost everything. The actual difference is that the stuff that ended up here are things the company simply gave up on trying to find a use for, absorb. So it deemed them trash and discarded them. However, one man's trash is another man's treasure. I'm here for a reason. Just throw me in the trash. The trash man. Portal. Not a mimic. Interesting. Okay, so... rocks and a ladder. That's on mine. Mine. Fuck. Shit. Okay. Damn. No T either. Okay. Anomaly. 1T train. Wow. Okay. Mock me with a bed up in the fucking ceiling. Where does this portal go? I am wasting energy. Very nice. Okay. Empty. Okay, so this way next. No oxygen tank. No oxygen tank. Not you. Trying to figure if that was a real one or not. Low visibility. Oh, jeez. Yeah. I think I made a mistake. Shit. Okay. Not you. Okay. This is not. So that's 20 minus. That's gonna put me at -6 per step. 6. I only have to move 3 times to. I'm gonna take this. Like that it. Let's see what those kinds of decisions. Oh, jeez. T. I can't take another step. Motherfucker. Okay. Aaron. Oh, sorry. I mistook you for someone else. I'm Frida. We haven't met before, but I might look familiar to you if you've met the Employee of the Year. She's not me, though. She's an AI that was trained on me. I was exiled here when the company replaced me with her. In their eyes, she's functionally the same as me. Anything the company doesn't find a use for ends up here, in the dead zone. Actually, it's kind of peaceful down here. Even if I don't get many visitors, it's dead, but so is everything else on this planet. At least it's quiet down here. A little negative space can be quite magical, right? Maybe this is why people back on Earth enjoy discovering abandoned factories and cities. You found your way down here. You probably found a way to escape back to Earth, right? I don't know why you came here, and you might not know it either, but I appreciate it. You should really be going, though. You already spent more time in this world than it deserves. Ain't wrong. Facility lock. Or 6. Oh, what just happened? A photo. That's it. That's the game. That's the secret ending. I suppose A new AI was made on me. Oops. Unless I met my untimely end. It was a neat little game. About an hour and a half for me to get through it. Definitely one of those weird pseudo-psychological horrors. The mention of AI and trash planets and companies that you don't know the face of, discarding their employees to the bottom of said trash planet. Still keeping them alive, I suppose, to feed the AI that's running around. It's a decent game. It was alright. For a dungeon crawler, it sucked. But for like a puzzle game, I thought it was nice. I thought it was cool. Okay. The last game for the night. We have Children of Clay. This game. Which is also supposed to be a short and sweet kind of game. I don't know if there's a category for this. If not, it's fine. No, there is. Okay. Last scary game. Here we are. Load. I believe this is a point and click game, so I'll not be needing my controller. Side. Oh, this is already pretty scary. The game enough. English language. Okay. Would like OBS to find this. Looks like OBS is having a little issue finding this game. Give it a second. If it doesn't work, then I'll just call it there and try again tomorrow. Options. Trying to set up Action 14. Oh, okay, the add-on, I see. Yeah, I just beat Repose. It's good. Definitely a game to get on sale, I would say. Yeah. Fully legal and cool and good, yeah. It's like $7. Yeah, that's roughly what I would pay for it. Maybe a little less. It's pretty short and sweet. Less of a. It kind of reminded me of Fear and Hunger, where like it's more of a puzzle. You have to take exact movements and make some on the fly decisions. Especially with the the energy system. If this game doesn't work, I'm just gonna call it. It's having OBS does not want to pick it up. Maybe Berserk Simulator, yeah. This. I'll pick it up if I do this. Ah, there it goes. Excellent. This is the final game, scary game for the night. This game is free. This is a free game made by a single Hungarian developer, if I remember correctly. It's supposed to be very short, maybe half an hour, if that. So, but it's got very good reviews. I'm looking forward to seeing this layout. Time is 5:40 past 11. I received another artifact from my old friend, Professor Ortve. He writes again about how he misses working with me out in the field, and his remorse about the accident. I merely felt a chill down my spine and was once again back in the cave, trapped and hopeless. I composed myself. I need to focus on my work. Time to start the examination. Name, artifact number 297. Site, Kurgan Burial Mound 7B, Rural Mountains. Material is clay. Age unknown. Function unknown. Whatever this thing is, it looks, this feature resembles a human face. You don't say. What's this? This is a magnifying glass. We can... Oh, that's good. A fly came out of its eyeball. That's good. Nothing. No, it's... Can I turn it? Ah, here we are. Curious. This feature resembles a tail. Wouldn't it have a tail? Is that a monkey? What is this? Looks like a metal object embedded in the artifact. It doesn't seem like it is possible to extract it. Maybe I can find out what kind of metal it is. Okay, so I can... What is that? It's like a ball? A metal ball? It looks like some sort of etching. I should use the magnifier to look closer. There seem to be some sort of runes, but I don't recognize the type. Maybe I can find something in my books. Well, I wrote down the runes. Good. What is this? Compass. Or something. What is this? Matches. Candle and books. Oh, can I light the candle? Let's get us a little light. Search for statue. Nothing relevant. Play. Pottery is the process of forming objects with clay and other raw materials, which are fired at high temperatures to give them a hard and durable form. It is one of the oldest human inventions, originating before the Neolithic period, with ceramic objects dating back to 29,000, 25,000 BC. I don't like its face. Base. Nothing. Maybe tail? Nothing. Metal nail. Metal. The earliest archaeological support of smelting, hot metallurgy, is dated to around 6000 to 5000 BC. The most common metals found on archaeology sites are iron, copper, lead, tin, zinc, and their alloys. Because iron is magnetic, it can be easily distinguished from the rest. Iron is magnetic. Like this thing. Compass? The compass is detecting a magnetic field. Okay, so this is an iron object inside its ass. Inside the ass side of the statue. Iron? The earliest known ironwork is dated from 3500 BC and made from meteoric iron. There are two main types of ironwork: wrought iron, or cold iron, and cast iron. Cold iron has a long and varied tradition in the mythology and folklore of the world. It's very true. Cold iron and silver. In an RPG, you need one of the two to be able to attack supernatural monsters. Cold iron. Wait. Oh, no space. Okay. Cold? Cold iron. Oh, speaking of, cold iron is historically believed to repel, contain, or harm ghosts, fairies, witches, and other malevolent supernatural creatures. This belief continued to later superstitions in a number of forms. Horseshoe. Interesting. What about like magnet? Nothing. Can I burn it? No. Oh, insect. A bug came out of its eye. Nothing. I have these runes. And try and translate maybe runes. Runes. An example of rune and runiform writings, the letter U written using different runes. Orcon runes, Rovas runes, Uthark runes. Okay, so it's Rovas. Rovas. The Rovas script, or Old Hungarian runes, is a writing system used for writing the Hungarian language. After the establishment of the Christian Hungarian kingdom, the old writing system was partly forced out of use, and the Latin alphabet was adopted. However, among some professions, the script has remained in use. For example, shepherds use it to track the number of animals. Old Hungarian letters were usually written from right to left. Okay, so I can translate. You? Yeah, you. R, okay, Looks like a small T. D, Urd. Urdu, Urdu, Urdu. Urd. What is that? Urdun? Urdun? Urdun. What is that? Two triangles. Looks like mountains. Urdur? No. Urdur. Urdus. What's this letter? Urdung. the mountains that they... Dung. You are dung. Oh shit. Erdung is a shape-shifting demonic creature from early Hungarian paganism. In pre-Christian beliefs, it ruled the lower world and helped God in creating the earth. After Christianization, it was identified with the devil. One of the oldest Erdung myths is recorded on the Yugra tablet, found in the Ural Mountains. Illustration of the devil from the Codex Gigas, 13th century. Okay, so... Erdung, Christian, paganism, Yugra, Codex Gigas, Codex Gigas, nothing, Christian, nothing, Ural, mountain came from Ural. The Ural Mountains, or simply the Urals, are a mountain range in Eurasia that runs north to south, from the coast of the Arctic Ocean to northwest Kazakhstan. A fragment of von Herberstein's map. Along here. Let's look for more clues or dung. Okay, so Ural. Demon, maybe. Yugra. Demon. Nothing. Found in the Ural Mountains. The Yugra tablet depicts the legend of a star that fell to Earth. And out of the star, the 7 children of Erdung crawled out. According to the legends, the children caused misfortune, sickness, and death to mankind. But a brave Taltosh used his cunning to lure and trap the creatures. Out of the 7 children, only 6 are depicted on the tablet. This could be because of damage, but one hypothesis states that this is evidence for the 7th children being the folk creature Mumush. Mumush. So this is the meteor. This looks like a lizard. This one has 6 heads. This one has holes in his face. This one is a centipede. This one is some kind of bird. This one has 6 arms. Mumush. Taltosh. Taltosh. What is a Taltosh? Oh shit. According to folk tradition, Taltosh is a person with supernatural power. A Taltosh was born with teeth, a 6th finger, or other additional bones. The most important ability of a Taltosh is a meditation or spiritual trance. In this state, they could heal wounds and sickness, or learn hidden truths by sending their soul among the stars. Stars. Nothing. Meteor. Nothing. Children. Nothing. Is that Mumush? Oh, that's all the book pages. The Mumush is an invisible creature that scares children in Hungarian folklore. It is most often associated with darkness, but there's no description of its shape even in the beliefs of other peoples. According to some assumptions, there is no description of its shape anywhere, because for everyone it is the embodiment of their own fears. What the fuck? Interesting. Some sort of dark liquid is flowing out of the holes. Quit? It said I read all the pages. Nothing. Is it flammable? Oh. The flame is extinguished when in close proximity to dark liquid. I see. Does not like the fire then. It looks like the dark liquid loosened the metal object. Oh no. Okay. What the fuck? It seems to be a nail. Oh. Oh. It's back. Nail? Nothing. I don't like that it's a nail. Typically in folklore, a cold iron nail would be used to trap something. And I just released whatever was trapped with this nail. So that's good. I think maybe this thing is a little mad at me. Oh my, what on earth? I should pick up the candle and investigate. That's a good idea. Let's just here maybe. My maps. I don't see anything. There's nothing in here. This is my room. My books. My books are all here. What the fuck is that? Oh, it's a statue. Okay. I was like, what the fuck? A collection of Neolithic artifacts. Ooh. Shit. A stone statue from... What is that noise? It's breathing. A stone statue from the Urals, possibly used to warn travelers of dangerous places. Oh. I stumble in the darkness, trying to find my way towards the door and away from that wretched thing. I reach out with my hand to find something. There's a wall here. Wall. Reach out with my left hand and find a wall. It feels cold to the touch. There's nothing in front of me. The air feels colder here. There's a wall here and I feel some sort of moss growing on it. Moss? I thought it was in my house. There's a wall here. Nothing in front of me. Okay, I can move. There's a wall in front of me. There's a wall here. Wall. Another wall. I'm in a dead end. Walls on 3 sides. Is this not where I came from? Yeah, there's a wall behind me now. What? There's a wall here. No. This can't be happening. I remember the matches I keep in my pocket. There's a single one left. It takes a few seconds before I dare to light it. It's nothing. It's everywhere. Light fades. Excerpt from the newspaper article titled "The Children of Clay." Just a few months after the disappearance of the esteemed archaeologist and the incident involving a broken artifact, the team working on the remote site in the Urals has made an astonishing discovery. A previously unknown underground chamber containing a dozen similar small clay figures has been discovered. They are already in contact with several universities across the globe to further study them. That, that's it. Dead end. Reach the Balets Ronyai. I probably said that briefly wrong. Balets Ronyai. Well done, Balets Ronyai. That reminded me of there used to be a lot of it was back when Flash was a thing. There used to be a lot of Flash. There's Cosmic Horror Jams 3 in 2024. There used to be a lot of horror games like that. Way back on I can't remember what. There's a specific series that comes to mind and I just can't seem to remember what it's called. But it was like first person. And it was like there was like a haunted house and shit. I think it was a series. But I don't remember what it was called. I remember Crimson Room. It might have just been called X. Well, I'm gonna look this up. Ex Mortis. That sounds familiar. Haunted House. Okay, there's also one that was just called The House. I think it was The House, okay. But it was a similar kind of gameplay. It was first person, but everything was kind of like it was like a pre-drawn, like a JPEG of like a background of the inside of a house, and you navigate it by clicking the walls and clicking the edges of the screen and all that. Point and click adventure, basically first person point and click. They're roughly the same. Some of them were a little long though. Some were like 1 or 2 hours long. This was like not even half an hour. Short and sweet is what they were. 20 minutes roughly. Okay. I quite like that. That was very cool. Ballots did a very good job making its game. And the use of Hungarian mythology was cool to see too. You don't see that very often. Not in horror games anyway. Although I think there is a vampire game coming out soonish. Within the next 2 years. It just got announced. I think that takes place in Hungary, but I don't remember for sure. In any case, it was a good game. I liked Children of Clay. That was very cool. The ambience is top notch for sure. And this statue is freaky as fuck. But that is where I'm going to call it for the night. I said before, I don't want to stream too late, especially on a weekday. So tomorrow, I do intend on playing more horror at Hyrook, I think, and I want to try Home Safety Hotline, which looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Be a lot of reading involved, but it makes for a good break from my East adventures. And next week I'll get back to East. I'll start East 6, the Ark of Nabishtim. I'll have that to look forward to. And time permitting, I may do more Sapphire Wings, but not sure. I do want to add some horror to my repertoire of streaming games. So thanks for tuning in. You tuned in live, or if you're just watching the spooky VOD, I'll be up with these games. Thank you for viewership. Uh, and that's it. Yeah, we're gonna call it there. Darksick, appreciate you tuning in. These games are pretty good. Repose is really short. I'll tell you that right now. If you're thinking of picking it up, Hyrook Castle or Horror at Hyrook is really good. Definitely check that out tomorrow. Chapter 2 for sure, along with the Hotline game. So, thank you for tuning in, and we will continue this tomorrow at night. Take care. Farewell, wanderers.